Hi guys, and welcome back to Canada Top to Bottom and the latest in our series on getting started in Canada. Today we're talking about how to buy a house in Canada, and we'll cover every aspect of the process, including figuring out how much you can afford, finding the right property for you, getting a mortgage, working with a realtor, and all the various legal and tax issues which might arise. This is a particularly relevant video for us right now because we are midway through the process of buying our first house in Canada, and it's been a steep learning curve for us. Much of what we're going to talk about today will be quite general because the specifics of each province, town, and even each neighbourhood can be different. We'll give you an idea of what you need to figure out to buy a house in Canada, but to actually do the specific figuring out, get some expert help. We'll talk a bit today about where you can find the help you need, so just consider this video as an overview rather than a comprehensive guide to house buying.
The first thing you need to do is figure out exactly what you can afford. To buy a property in Canada, you need a down payment, which is a lump sum you put towards the cost of the property. Very few people, us included, have enough money to buy a house outright, so the down payment is just a contribution towards the total cost of the property. In Canada, you need a minimum of a 5% down payment to buy a property. So if the property costs $500,000, you need a minimum down payment of $25,000 in order to buy it. And you'd then need a mortgage to finance the remaining $475,000. We'd recommend putting as much as you can into your down payment because it reduces the size of your mortgage, and that means that you're paying interest payments on a smaller amount. One thing to be aware of is that if you have a down payment of less than 20% of the property value, you'll need to take out mortgage default insurance, which adds to your monthly mortgage repayments. If at all possible, aim to buy a house on which you can put a 20% down payment, although that does require you to have a lot of cash available to you. If you've sold a house in another country, you might have that sort of money available. Or maybe you've just successfully saved that amount. But regardless, a 20% down payment will make your mortgage cheaper.
There are a few other initial costs which come with house buying beyond the down payment, mortgage, and possible mortgage default insurance. Depending on the province and property, you might have land transfer fees, lawyer fees, title insurance, municipal levies, appraisal fees, and the cost of a home inspection. These initial costs are likely to be between 1 and 4% of the property value, so they represent a significant outlay. A realtor will help you understand all these costs, and we're going to talk more about working with a realtor a bit later on in this video, so stay tuned.
In terms of monthly payments, the bulk of your monthly costs will be your mortgage. As a very rough guide, you can expect to pay around $500 per month for every $100,000 on your mortgage. So let's say that, for example, your total mortgage amount is $500,000. Your monthly payments will be roughly $2,500. Over 12 months, $2,500 per month adds up to $30,000 per year, and general consensus is that it's highly recommended not to spend more than 30% of your gross income on accommodation costs. So if you have a gross household income of $100,000 a year, aim to have a mortgage which costs less than $30,000.
That seems simple enough, right? The issue is that the mortgage isn't the only monthly outgoing you'll have on your house. Property tax, utilities, maintenance, and various types of insurance all need to be paid for, and you should include these in your calculations. On paper, you might be able to afford a $2,500 mortgage repayment every month, but in reality, these other costs might mean that you end up spending over $3,000 per month. Be realistic about what you can actually afford when you've taken all monthly expenditure into account.
Being realistic is made easier for you when you start working with a mortgage broker. These are people who compile all your financial information, figure out what you can afford to borrow from a mortgage lender, and then go and get that mortgage for you. Mortgage brokers are paid by the mortgage lenders, banks for example, so using one costs you, the property buyer, nothing. Your mortgage broker will want to see your financial records for the last few years, and they'll ask you about your work and employment situation going forward, and then they'll help you get a mortgage which suits you and which you can afford. As another very rough guide, you should be able to get $100,000 of mortgage for every $25,000 you earn per year. So, sticking with our example of a household with an income of $100,000 per year, you should get a mortgage of $400,000. So you should be looking at properties worth $400,000 plus whatever your down payment is. Let's say you make $100,000 per year and you have a $100,000 down payment. You can afford properties priced at $500,000.
Now, so far we've just been listing all the costs associated with house buying, and rightly so, because it's an expensive process, as we're finding out. The good news is that there are some tax breaks for home buyers, especially new ones. The Government of Canada provides a first-time buyer incentive, which helps you with your down payment, and you may also not pay all of the land transfer tax if you are a first-time buyer. Again, figure out the details of this with your realtor. We're just letting you know that you, as a first-time buyer, could save some money. There's also the possibility to save some money if you are going to use your property to work from, because you can write off some of your moving costs as business expenses. Finally, you may be able to secure a rebate on the GST, that's government sales tax, which needs to be paid on new properties. House buying, sure, is expensive, but there might be some ways of making it a little bit more affordable.
So, to finish off the incredibly complex topic of finances, our advice is this. Sit down and figure out what you can realistically afford to spend on accommodation every month. Once you know that, figure out how much money you can put towards a down payment, and from there, you should have a rough budget and have some idea of what kind of property you'll be able to afford. Having done that, approach a mortgage broker who you can find via any real estate agent and begin the process of getting a mortgage. This whole process seemed completely overwhelming and impossibly complicated to us just a year or so ago. But once you get some expert help and do some research, it does begin to make sense. The key is to be honest with yourself and to ask as many questions as you possibly can when you find yourself some expert help.
Speaking of expert help, getting a realtor is all but essential when buying a property. A realtor is someone who represents you through the entire property buying process, from searching for a house through to buying it and moving into it. They act in your interest, negotiate the property sale on your behalf, and help you with the huge piles of paperwork you'll be filling out. The property seller pays for the realtor, so there's no cost to you as the buyer. Our realtor has been absolutely superb, and we really feel like he is out there fighting to get us the best deal rather than simply securing himself a fee. Just to give you some idea, realtors get a fee of roughly 3.5% of the first $100,000 of the property you buy, and then 1.5% on every additional $100,000. Getting a realtor who you like and trust is a huge step towards buying the right property for you.
Once you've figured out your finances, got a mortgage sorted, found the right property and bought it, it's time to move in. Enjoy your new home. It feels like we've skipped over the final and biggest step in all this process, the actual purchase of the property. But the reality is that every sale is different, and if you have a mortgage broker and a realtor fighting for you, they'll be far more use than we could ever be. They will advise you on the specifics of the property you're buying and will guide you through the whole process.
We've already bid on a couple of houses but haven't got one bought just yet. We'll let you know when we do, and in the meantime, let us know if you've bought a house in Canada and how you found the process. We're kind of enjoying it, we think, but it will be nice when it's done. Help us keep our morale up by hitting that subscribe button before you go, and we'll see you next time.